Here's a cool one for me. I hadn't been able to touch any of the casting models of the St. Croix Physyx rods till today. A friend of mine over there in Wisconsin sent me one. So this is mine. I'm gonna get to go fishing with this one. And we're gonna do a bend test on it first. Since we're still technically frozen here in Minnesota, it's gonna be a couple weeks before I actually physically get on the water. But it's a perfect time to do a bend test here with the St. Croix Physyx rods. This particular model they sent me is a 7-1 medium heavy power fast action. These do feature their SE4 Plus blank technology. I'm sure a lot of you that are watching this are familiar with the St. Croix Victory rods that came out. My opinion and most of the consumers' opinions based on sales we've seen find that to be one of the most bang for your buck series of rods made, period. And they're made in the USA. So are these ones made in the USA, and they all feature those kind of blended blank technology. St. Croix is using some of their highest end materials in these blanks and rolling them in with other materials all the way down the line of all the different levels of carbon fiber they have to get precise actions and powers out of these rods that are really impressive for the money. This particular rod series here is a huge departure for St. Croix as a whole, seeing that these grips here are carbon fiber. I think you've heard a little bit about their trigon theory here. They use actual hand scientists here to determine what shape of your hand would be the least amount fatiguing, and it is a triangle shape when you close your hand like this. So these feature the trigon style grips. Doesn't stick out as much in the casting models as it does in the spinning models here, because I hold my hand forward on a casting rod just like I do with a spinning rod. So I don't get into the triangle feature as much unless I'm casting. What I do touch a lot here is this little thing here. In the casting model, even more than the spinning, I find myself putting my finger on that little trigger back here organically, which I didn't think was that cool when I saw it just in pictures or heard them talk about it. So you actually physically get it in your hands, you find that that is quite natural. When you go to roll cast, like I do a lot, you put your finger there quite a bit. So kudos to them for doing something out of the box. They do feature this little bit of TPE material in the carbon fiber grip material here, so it gives it a little bit more tacky feel if you're rolling your hand around on it, if it's wet. They do have grooves in here as well. They don't feel like they'd be really slippery. They do feel alive. I know we get that a lot with reel seats, or manufacturers say like, you can feel more through this reel seat. Well, obviously this entire handle assembly is all carbon, so you are going to get a lot more transfer vibration. You do notice that even just monkeying around with a rod without being on the water. Plus the blanks themselves, if you're familiar with St. Croix, they don't feel like they have very much paint on them at all, which is a departure for them as well, and it does make this rod feel alive. I don't know if it's the handle or the way they treated the blank what's making them feel so much more balanced than a lot of rods in the past have felt. And I know that's a hot topic with my friends out there in Park Falls and a lot of you rod purists out there. Balance is subjective depending on how you hold your hand on the rod and what type of reel you put on the rod and all that. These are definitely weighted towards the back a lot more traditionally than a St. Croix rod would feel. And I don't know if that's due to the handle or to the blank, but it could be a combination of both. I don't know. You be the judge. I will tell you that they do feel a lot lighter in the tip section for me personally. So very impressed so far with these rods. I'm gonna do a bend test here on this 7-1 medium heavy fast action rod, kind of your all around versatile casting rod. Let's see how she does. Okay, here I am with the St. Croix Physyx 7-1 medium heavy fast action. So kind of your all around bait casting rod. Do a whole bunch of stuff with this. Let me get on my marks here and we're gonna bend it. And yeah, we've got a fast action rod here. Let me make sure I'm not pulling any drag here. You know, very little pressure gets you into the backbone of the rod. You get into that fast action right away. Let me do a faster hook set here. These are bending a lot further past the tip than I thought when you impart a lot of pressure on them. I like that. That's, you know, some would say that's, you know, not as fast to action as you would think. That gets into more of a moderate type backbone, but I'm going to tell you right now the tip is extremely fast. I know that's not looking like that as visual as you want to see, but trust me, like I said, let me just impart very little action on it. Hold on, my string came off there. I know that fast action You typically, when you load the rod up, want to see just that top third of the rod kind of bent, and you're seeing this get into almost into that midsection of the rod. But that's because of the fact that nowadays with more modern fishing lines, the stretchier lines, your landing percentage goes up the more rod you give them in the fight when you're into that backbone. I'm going to promise you right now, you just have to trust me like usual, that if you just put a little bit of pressure with your wrist on this rod, load up a lot slower than I'm doing on kind of a hook set style, you are using just that top third of the rod if you take a look there. So the tip really truly is fast. It's not extra fast. It's bending that top third when you put a little pressure on it. But when you put a lot of pressure on it, it will get into the backbone on this rod. So you will have a little bit more forgiveness if, let's say, you're using this fast action medium heavy rod for a moving bait. That's why this 7-1 is so versatile in a medium heavy or a 7-footer medium heavy. You hear 7-3 medium heavy nowadays is like the hottest rod length and action and power because it's so versatile. I could throw a spinnerbait with this thing. I could throw a big topwater with this thing. I could fish a jig with this thing. You could Texas rig with it, blah, 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 blah. You could do a whole bunch. You could get away fishing a big jerkbait on this thing. You could do a ton of stuff with this rod that you that it doesn't have to be a technique specific rod. You could literally fish most of the baits that are in your boat and you don't have to worry about being so specific with the rod. So, and I do think a lot of that has to do with the action of this rod as well. This rod would be an above average kind of versatile all around fishing rod. So if you're in the market for a versatile all around fishing rod and you want to try something modern and sleek from our friends at St. Croix Rods, check out the St. Croix Physyx 7-1 medium heavy fast action.